With the third fight of the night, we've got Andre Touchy Fili coming up against UFC relative newcomer Lucas Almeida. Almeida now in his third UFC fight. Andre Fili coming into his 20th UFC fight, which is crazy to say because the guy still doesn't feel that old. At 33, he still looks young, and maybe that's just the nature of the featherweight division and just being a little bit smaller. But, I mean, he looks like he's still with it and got that speed. Been very up and down throughout his career, and lately it's been down. He's 2-4 in his last 6 UFC fights, but really it's a product of the competition that he's faced. All of those losses to very, very elite fighters. Sadiq Youssef is probably his worst loss there, and that says something. Because afterwards you've got Bryce Mitchell, Joe Anderson Burrito, and Nathaniel Wood, who are all losses. But in the middle, he beat Bill Algeo and Charles Jourdain. But it is worth noting that both of those wins came by split decision, so a little bit more – a little bit less convincing than you might have wished. But when it comes to Andre Fili, it's the jab. The jab starts everything else. And it's thrown with ease. It's thrown quickly. It's snapping. And he's able to hand it right in your nose pretty much every time. He's going to be able to switch stances throughout the fight. And he's a good wrestler. He doesn't like to use it. And what I love about it the most is that he's able to weaponize it only opportunistically, in the sense that he's not going to go looking for double legs a ton. But if he's forced into it, or if the opportunity arises where his opponent extends himself, he's more than happy to do it. And that's given him success against other wrestlers and other really elite grapplers that I think could give him some success in this matchup. And for Almeida, I'll let you add some color to this, or to both, obviously, but to Almeida as well. But he's all fire. He's going to give you everything until he can't give it anymore. And which you don't see as much at the featherweight division. That tends to come more once you get past lightweight and more. But he's gonna give you everything until he can't anymore, and then he'll either knock you out or he'll get slept more times than not. Now he's got some submissions as well, but all 14 of his victories have come by finish. And so, Andy, what do you see with Almeida there, and where do you think he could be able to trouble the vet and Fili?
Yeah, I think his recent switch to featherweight is very interesting, where he lost his Dana White Contender Series fight in 2021 to Daniel Zellhuber, and Zellhuber obviously a stud that has now kind of been put on our radar over the last 2 years since entering the UFC. And then he made the move down. And since then, he got that win against Trizano, and then he got that loss against Sabatini to an arm triangle choke in the second round, which, I mean, hey, a submission loss to Sabatini, not the worst loss to put on your resume, in my opinion. I think he's got decent jiu-jitsu. He's not a crazy ground threat for Fili, but I do think he can hold his own there. And I know he likes to set up things with his hands first. And that's where I kind of give him the edge over Fili, where I do think that Fili does get a little bit happy with the hands sometimes and needs to rely on that wrestling a little bit more, especially because I do give him that slight edge over Almeida. I just don't know if he's going to or not. I worry that Fili has a lot of MMA miles in the tank because I agree with you. Looks-wise and like how he kind of fares speed-wise, you would think, yeah, he's still got a lot left, but that is a lot of MMA miles, as many say, and the recent form kind of says that. I know those names in the recent form. I do give a lot of props to that, and I kind of will, I guess, go against myself at times where I do kind of give credit to guys and pick and choose. Hey, they lost to some big names here. Let's take them in this fight. But this one, I'm not really going that way. I think that there's some really good value on Almeida here at plus 155 in one of those fights, like I touched on in the preview for the card at the beginning of the podcast, that this is one of those where if you like one way and like Andre Touchy Fili, then you're going to have to pay a little bit of a premium compared to a typical pick 'em. So I think it should be closer to a pick 'em in odds, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fili pulls it out, but I do respect Almeida. I think that he is going to do a really solid job against Fili in this one. I'm going to go with him straight on the money line for half a unit at plus 155 on Caesars. Let me double check to make sure that's the best odds I can get right now because I wrote this last night. It still is. So Caesars' best price at plus 155. A lot of other books have him at plus 145. And I'll be going with that for a half unit, but I don't hate if people want to go with an inside the distance thing because Almeida has never won by decision before, to your point earlier. So I'm going with Almeida in this one. Which way are you going?
Yeah, and I'm going to end up going Fili, but there's definitely some caveats there, and I'm not betting Fili, so it's not a strong lean for me either. But and really the reason for that is that wrestling that Fili has in his back pocket that he can use whenever he gets cracked. Nobody in the featherweight division tends to get knocked out cold unless you're hit clean with something. And while Almeida's got power. He has really struggled with that takedown defense. Pat Sabatini in his second fight, obviously that is Pat Sabatini. Everyone's going to struggle against Pat Sabatini when it comes to wrestling. But he struggled with it on the regional scene against Nico Cuccio, Diego Barbosa. He was taken down multiple times in different fights. And that just tells me that if Fili's able to get it where he wants to and be able to mix it up pretty well, which he's able to, that we could end up seeing a lot of success there for Fili. So I'm going to go with Fili to win the fight, but it would not surprise me in the slightest if he would get slept. Like you said, they about the same age, but the tread on their tires is completely different. Fili has been there. He's been with the best. He's taken damage from Max Holloway, from pretty much every Calvin Kattar, Michael Johnson. Every great featherweight you can imagine. He's pretty much fought and probably lost to, but more often than not lost to. But he's still a very, very respectable fighter. So I lean Fili. My bet's going to be the under 2.5. It's a little juiced at -155. And for featherweight, you don't love that. But you got two guys that can get slept, want to sleep others, and have the submission ability on the ground to be able to get it done. So I think that we're going to have an all-action affair. And for the third fight on a prelim card, when there's a 14-fight card, this is a damn good prelim. So I hope everyone's able to watch this one and be able to get in early because this should be a hell of a fight. But we're split on the pick. Andy going Almeida. I'm going Fili. I've got the under 2.5. He's got Almeida straight up at +150, plus
155 for half a unit.
55 for half a unit. And next up, we've got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. So it should be a heck of a fight again. We'll see you there.